I'd like to call the March 25th, 2015 meeting to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Lamore?
Here.
Mr. Valano?
Here.
Mr. Calder?
Here.
Mr. Bofardi?
Here.
4 present.
We have a quorum. I'd like you all to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Ms. Markle.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will dispense with the supervisor's report and move on to public comment, privilege of the floor. Will the clerk please read the rules of order?
Those members of the public wishing to address the town board will be asked to sign in before the meeting is called to order on the sign-in sheets being provided. Speakers will be called to the podium in the order of their signing in. Persons recognized by the chair to speak during privilege of the floor shall direct his or her comments to the town supervisor as chair of the meeting. Persons granted the privilege of the floor shall first clearly state his or her name and address for the record. Persons so addressing the chair through the use of a prepared written statement shall submit a copy of the same to the town clerk for the purpose of maintaining clear and accurate official minutes of the town board meeting. The purpose of a public hearing and/or privilege of the floor shall be for speakers to express their views, thoughts, and speak freely. Public hearings and privilege of the floor are not meant to commence dialogue with town board members, as town board will not comment at this time, which is solely for the public to be heard. Each speaker who wishes to address the town board and the public shall have an equal and reasonable opportunity to be heard by the town board and the public. Each speaker will state his or her name and address for the record. Each speaker shall be afforded 4 minutes to address the town board in public. Carrie Pointnick? Sorry. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Carrie Pointek of 989 River Road, Rotterdam Junction. I come to this meeting concerning Resolution 243.14 that was brought to vote at the November 12th meeting of the board. This resolution did not carry with a vote of 2-2. It was on the agenda at the October 22nd meeting for public comment. Andrea Coppola of 625 River Road was there. She asked the building department if we needed a permit to do the improvements to the property, and was told that we didn't because we are not changing the use of the property. She said that there was a certain amount of controversy concerning the previous owners over the past year. She did say that she thought the improvements looked very nice. I was not aware of any of this controversy when I bought this property. Since then, I have heard that the bar that was there previously, which closed officially in November 2013, may have had a bad reputation with some officials. I also know now that another tenant was trying to open a business there and was not approved. I don't know the reasons. When I went to the building department September 29th, I'm nervous, I was told that the building permit that was required did not have to go to the board if the business that was there previously had been closed for less than 1 year. To my knowledge, it had closed officially in November of 2013. Mr. Mayor said that the date was kind of a gray area, and we required that I put in a permit and go to vote. So Mr. Mayor submitted the permit to the town supervisor, and it was found that the property met all 5 requirements of the aquifer overlay zone. I was told that the permit should pass as long as it met these requirements. So I, along with the building department, am confused about why this building permit did not pass. I need the permit to get my certificate of occupancy to open my business. The business I would like to open here in Rotterdam will be called Danny G's Roadhouse. I am the sole owner. I plan to serve breakfast, lunch, and homemade dinners. I also plan to get a beer and wine license. I have always wanted to return to the restaurant business, and your community is just the place. I plan to be a hands-on owner. I plan to do small weddings, birthdays, gatherings. I want to be a place where families can come and relax and not be afraid to bring their children. It will be based on good food, welcoming atmosphere, and a place to unwind from your busy day at work. I welcome anyone in the community to come visit and check out the improvements of the building. I can and will be a good member of the community, and anything I can do to change the negative perceptions of what I plan to do with the property, I will address. I have been in the restaurant business since 1974. I am a Florida State plumbing contractor. I've been that since 2004. I've managed another business for 16 years. I do have experience. I've been a Girl Scout leader. I do contribute to the community I live in now, and I'd like to do that for Rotterdam. So, thank you.
Thanks.
Calvin Road.
Yes. Hi, members of the board. I'm here to speak on 6815. I was a little bit confused when I saw the agenda come out because it says refer to the planning commission for report and recommendation. I think it already went there, and I thought it was coming back here for your recommendation. No. So this is the same thing over again? Okay. Fair enough. Well, I got the privilege of the floor, so I guess I'll speak a little bit. So let me say, I'm still opposed to the proposed change of zoning. And one thing I would like to say is I think that the town, I know you guys are going through some budget things right now. Perhaps you should look at allocating some money to the planning department to look at our current zoning and make sure that the areas that we do have are properly sized for commercial or business opportunities. So, and I'll save the rest of my comments for when it comes back again. So, thank you.
Thank you. That's it, Mr. Supervisor.
Okay, that concludes our public comment privilege of the floor. We'll move on to the resolution portion of tonight's meeting. First one is 6215. Will the clerk please read?
Amend Resolution Number 13714 adopted on May 14, 2014, appointing Dan Gaudio of Rotterdam, New York, 12306, as a member of the Town of Rotterdam Board of Assessment Review at an annual salary of $550 with no employee benefits commencing May 14, 2014 through September 30, 2018, to reflect the proper term ending on September 30, 2015.
Is there any discussion?
Briefly, Mr. Supervisor, it's my understanding that we are just correcting the termination date. Apparently, somehow it ended up in our records incorrectly that his term was going to expire in 2018, and we're just setting it back to 2015. Is that correct?
Correct.
Very good.
Any other discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move.
Mr. Valano, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Lamore on the question. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Calder?
Yes.
Mr. Buffardi?
Yes.
4 yes.
Resolution carries. Number 63.15. Will the clerk please read?
Appoint James Savagano of Rotterdam, New York, 12303, to the position of wastewater treatment plant operator trainee for the Department of Public Works, full-time probationary with full employee benefits at an annual salary of $43,537.50.
Any discussion?
I'd just like to say something real quick. As far as I was informed, this is really just going to be filling a vacancy opening up. But I did look at the resume, and I liked a lot of the experience that James has, so just wanted to say that.
Any other discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Calder, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Valano on the question. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Calder?
Yes.
Mr. Buffardi?
Yes.
4 yes.
Resolution carries. Is Mr. Savignano here?
He is?
Yes, yes.
Please stand. Be recognized. Welcome.
Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Resolution number 64.15. Will the clerk please read?
Appoint Janine M. Carroll of Rotterdam, New York, 12306, to the position of account clerk, full-time probationary with full employee benefits at an annual salary of $36,765.95.
Any discussion?
Briefly, Mr. Supervisor, with this particular individual, it's filling a vacancy from somebody who's recently left the department, correct?
Correct.
And is this actually a savings to us? Is this less than the rate that the prior employee was getting paid?
That's also correct.
All right, do we have any idea what that savings is?
Ms. Every?
This is the starting position for the account clerk, which usually occurs in our office. The current salary is $36,000. The employee who left was at $44,000 salary, so approximately $8,000.
Wonderful, thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Calder, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Lamore, the question? Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Calder?
Before I vote, I just want to say that she comes very highly recommended from her past job. And I know that she was very highly recommended from our comptroller and the people that interviewed her. That's all. I vote yes.
Mr. Bafardi?
Yes.
4 yes.
Resolution carries. Yes, Ms. Carroll, would you please stand to be recognized?
Thank you.
Welcome. 65.15, would the clerk please read?
Appoint Mark Haskell and Gary Weslinski of Rotterdam, New York, 12306, to the position of watchman at the compost facility located on Princetown Road, part-time, from April 1st, 2015 through November 30th, 2015, at an hourly rate of $9.50.
Any discussion?
Quick question, Mr. Supervisor, is this the same rate that the positions were being paid last year?
I believe it is.
Madam
Mr. Lamore,
Controller?
you agree? It is? Yes.
Okay,
$9.50.
Any other discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move.
Mr. Valano,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Lamore. On the question, clerk please call the roll.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Calder?
Yes.
Mr. Bafardi?
Yes.
4 yes.
Resolution carries. Number 66.15, would the clerk please read?
Amend Resolution Number 3915, adopted on January 28, 2015. The Town of Rotterdam authorizes and appropriates a minimum of 20% local match as required by the Engineering Planning Grant Program for the sanitary sewer inflow and infiltration study. Under the Engineering Planning Grant Program, this local match must be at least 20% of the total project cost. The maximum local share appropriated, subject to any changes agreed to by the town's designated representative, shall not exceed $6,000, based upon a total estimated maximum project cost of $36,000. The supervisor may increase this local match through the use of an in-kind services without further approval from the town to reflect the local share to $7,500, for a total project cost not to exceed $37,500.
Any discussion?
Mr. Supervisor, with the use of the words in-kind services, that means that we're going to be using our current labor force to provide the services as opposed to actually infuse additional cash into this project. Is that correct?
That's the anticipation, yes, correct.
Very good.
Any other discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move.
Mr. Valano, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Lamore, a question? Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Calder?
Yes.
Mr. Bafardi?
Yes.
4 yes.
Resolution carries. Number 67.15, will the clerk please read?
Refer to Planning Commission for report and recommendation thereon a proposed local law of the year 2015 for the following purpose: to allow for a change of zone request from Peter Road LLC Contract Vendee for property located at 759 Peter Road and is known as tax parcel number 59.20-1-1, Rotterdam, New York. The applicant is requesting a change of zone from single-family residential R1 to multifamily residential R3 to facilitate the construction of up to 3 8-unit apartment buildings totaling 24 units on a 2.41 acre parcel.
Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor. At the last meeting, I asked for this matter to be returned to the agenda with the understanding that I had talked to the developer and the engineer and that there was a discourse that the project at 32 units was too dense. And then it was going to be too dense at 24 units. But that I could be amenable to a smaller project than the proposed 24 units, which he showed me on a map. It is now being presented with 24 units. 8 times 3 is still 24. Based upon the foregoing and the mere fact that, this is not what I agreed to, I expect to vote no when I am called.
Any other discussion?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor. I do feel that we need to maybe drop it down to 18. There's a lot of questions about the water table levels around that area. And so we're also having so much expansion in Rotterdam, and we're starting to take away from that small town atmosphere. So we still need to allow development, but we have to kind of, drop it down a little bit. But the other thing that I need for this project, we need something in writing, stating in writing that they definitely have sewer hookup, because if they don't have sewer hookup, we can't approve that even. We need, they have to be definitely having the sewer hookup. We cannot have, all the stuff coming out of the ground over near all the different people. We cannot have that. So, it varies on that.
And to follow up on that, I have spoken to the developer that insists that he does have sewer hookup. However, then I've spoken to Vince Romano, our public work coordinator, and I've gotten less than confirmation on that issue. Obviously, they can't get sewer hookup at all. The scale has to be dramatically downsized to, duplexes, single-family houses, things along that line. We're not going to put another, 18, 24 units on a plot of 2.4-ish acres that already has a high water table and other concerns. So,
Is there any other discussion? I might add to the discussion that I understand the arguments that you're making, but I also think that these arguments belong in front of planning. That's who does this form of assessment, evaluation. This recommendation to come forward with 24 units was applied for by Mr. Engels in front of the Planning Commission, was referred to us for that purpose, and the purpose of us sending it back to planning is to examine things like water table and sewers and traffic and any number of different compounding issues that might affect this one way or the other. And I believe that that's where it belongs to be discussed in front of planning with professionals on that. And then it would come back to us for the vote, whether we would approve it or not. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. For purposes of a vote, I make a motion to put 6715 on. Do I have a second? Failing to have a second, this does not come on, nor does it get voted on. Number 6815, will the clerk please read?
Refer to Planning Commission for report and recommendation thereon, a proposed local law of the year 2015 for the following purpose: to allow for a change of zone request from CVS Caremark Corporation, 1 CVS Drive, Woonsocket, Rhode Island, 02895, contract vendee for property located at 179 in Lawndale Avenue and 950 Curry Road, and is known as tax parcels number 58.7-3-15, 58.7-3-16, 58.7-3-17, and 58.7-3-31. Respectively, in Rotterdam, New York. The applicant is requesting a change of zone from single-family residential R1 to retail business B1 to facilitate the construction of a 13,225 square foot CVS pharmacy.
Is there any discussion?
The only thing I would like to say, Mr. Supervisor, is I saw they did a few adjustments on this, but the one thing that I'd really like to say, Rotterdam really needs to bring businesses into town. And not less of the apartments and all that, but we need businesses. We need businesses in this town. It's going to help both our budget, and it's also, the biggest thing it's going to help, it's going to make the business taxes go down. If we get enough businesses in, it's going to make the townspeople's taxes go down. But we have to draw business in, so we do not want, if some business wants to come in and they're being reasonable, we looked at everything that they had, we need the businesses. That's all I want to say.
Any other discussion?
Limited, Mr. Supervisor. I am thankful to see that the islands that I asked for the last time it came back on the Curry Road side have been installed in the plan. Although I am disappointed that Lawndale is switching to a one-way beyond the proposed cul-de-sac, it's my understanding from the town attorney that simply the road section that was originally intended to be abandoned could not be. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
All right, so is this the best alternative that they can come up with for that section of Lawndale at this point?
I think that the applicant has a right to apply for subsequent alternatives, and this is the alternative that the applicant has selected. I can tell you that New York State Department of Transportation has been consulted and that they like the one-way.
All right,
Any other discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Valano, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Lamore on the question. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Calder?
Again, this is only for sending it to planning, but yes.
Mr. Bafardi?
Yes.
4 yes.
Resolution carries. Number 69.15, will the clerk please read?
Authorize the supervisor to negotiate and execute a contract with Jason Hovat to provide information technology services to the Rotterdam Police Department and Justice Court for the years 2015 and 2016 at a rate of $110 per hour, retroactive to January 1st, 2015 through December 31st, 2016.
Any discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Calder, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Lamore on the question. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Calder?
Yes.
Mr. Bafardi?
Yes.
4 yes.
Resolution carries. Number 70.15, will the clerk please read?
Call for bids to be open on Thursday, April 16th, 2015 at 1 p.m. for the tree cutting and removal services for the Town of Rotterdam Highway Department for the year 2015.
Any discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move.
Mr. Valano, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Lamore on the question. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Calder?
Yes.
Mr. Bafardi?
Yes.
4 yes.
Resolution carries. Number 71.15, will the clerk please read?
Call for bids to be open on Thursday, April 16th, 2015 at 1 p.m. for water and sewer materials, plastic pipe, ductile pipe, bell clamps, stainless repair clamps, Ford lead repair fittings, copper tubing, compression quick couplings, and curb box shutoffs for the Town of Rotterdam Water and Sewer Department for the year 2015.
Is there any discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Calder, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Valano on the question. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Calder?
Yes.
Mr. Bafardi?
Yes.
4 yes.
Resolution carries. Number 72.15, will the clerk please read?
Call for bids to be opened on Thursday, April 16th, 2015 at 1:30 p.m. for the purchase of highway materials, concrete block, caps, manhole blocks, manhole frames and grates for the use by the Town of Rotterdam Highway Department for the year 2015.
Any discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move.
Mr. Valano, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Lamore on the question. Please call the roll.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Calder?
Yes.
Mr. Bafardi?
Yes.
4 yes.
Resolution carries. Number 73.15, will the clerk please read?
Call for bids to be open on Thursday, April 16th, 2015 at 1:45 p.m. for the purchase of highway materials, crushed limestone, gravel, and sand for the use by the Town of Rotterdam Highway Department for the year 2015.
Any discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Calder, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Lamore on the question. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Calder?
Yes.
Mr. Bafardi?
Yes.
4 yes.
Resolution carries. Resolution number 74.15 was tabled in the agenda session. We'll move on to 75.15. Will the clerk please read?
Accept town clerk's report for the month of February 2015.
Any discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move.
Mr. Valano, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Lamore, on the question. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Calder?
Yes.
Mr. Bafardi?
Yes.
4 yes.
Resolution carries. Number 76.15, will the clerk please read?
Authorize budget transfers by the town comptroller to various accounts for 2015.
Any discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move.
Mr. Valano, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Competing seconds, I'll take Mr. Lamore's. On the question, clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Calder?
Yes.
Mr. Bafardi?
Yes.
4 yes.
Resolution carries. We have an addition of 77.15. Will the clerk please read?
To appoint, well, I guess it's appoint, right? Okay. Thomas Zink of Rotterdam, New York, 12306, is hereby appointed to the position of senior laborer for the Highway Department, full-time probationary, until September 10th, 2015, with full employee benefits at an hourly rate of $19.6642, effective immediately.
Any discussion?
Mr. Supervisor, this is just a position that he's already in that title, correct?
That's correct.
All right,
Any other discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move.
Mr. Valano, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Calder, the question. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Lamore?
Yes.
Mr. Valano?
Yes.
Mr. Calder?
Yes.
And Mr. Gafari?
Yes.
4 yes.
Resolution carries. That concludes the resolution portion of tonight's meeting. We'll move on to committee.
Mr. Supervisor, do we need a motion to be made to restore television service as the sum has not been reallocated for that expense?
We could do that, or we could put it on for next meeting. I was
Next
going to ask him,
meeting.
I was asking him, what I had intended on doing was to email them tomorrow, ask them to continue the service. We'll put it on a full resolution. We had taken a straw vote, and I also want to see if they can correct those issues of putting former meetings on that weren't on, to see if they could do the catch-up that he talked about, and maybe even resolve the sound quality.
But is it your understanding from that meeting that the televisions, the televising of our town board meetings would resume, post haste, before even the next vote?
Yes, and I was under the impression, if I could add, that we did a straw poll of that, and it appears like that will carry.
Very good.
I think we also agreed to keep this system the way it is, correct?
Correct. We're just going to be,
We're adding the other, we're just keeping this to,
we're not going to do away with anything, we're only going to add to.
Very good.
which you should know.
Any other discussion? That concludes the resolution portion of tonight's meeting. We'll move on to committee reports. Does anyone have anything under committee reports?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor. There have been some concerns, I've been emailed several times regarding yard waste opt-outs, people indicating that they don't believe that it's fair, or that they should have to get their form notarized every single time. Once again, it's certainly my position that we should not have a brush fee, as the labor costs are actually de minimis, but we can avoid that. The thing is that people have sent me emails saying that the current language of the resolution says prior to April 1st of each year that there has to be an opt-out, and that it is required to be notarized. There are people that want to opt out year after year in perpetuity, me myself being one of them. However, with that being said, is there some way that we can opt out for more than 1 year at a time, or in the alternative, going forward, not have that be a requirement of this particular thing? I'm sure that you've received at least as many phone calls as I have, Mr. Supervisor.
Phone calls and emails, and let me comment on, and then I will defer to the town attorney. I was under the impression that we couldn't do that as of the wording of the language of the resolution that was passed, but I'll defer to the town attorney.
Well, I don't think it's based on the resolution that was passed, it's the local law that was instituted. And so I haven't looked at that section in quite a while, but my recollection is that it reads in such a way that it would require yearly opting out. And so to modify that, you would have to modify the local law in order to effectuate that change and make it very clear to the residents, as well as anyone else reading that local law, that that's the intent of this board.
Or the intent of a former board, actually.
Well, to make the change of, yeah. Mhm.
Right, but I think we should probably look into it to eliminate some of the redundancy if we could. I understand that issue.
It's something that I would like to address hopefully by the next meeting. I understand that that will be too late to catch it for this year, but if it is the will of the board, or at least if I'm not in a position to abolish the fee right now, at least making it more convenient for the taxpayers to let their will be known, whether or not they want to opt in or opt out, than doing it on a regular basis, that would be greatly appreciated. With that being said, we're faced with the brush tax this year, and how are people going to opt out? Well, time is winding down for you to get to your notary. It is still a requirement of the town, against my better will and judgment, but with that being said, I will be running a notary clinic for those who cannot otherwise get to a bank or opt out. Although I've already turned mine in and many other people have, there are many of us that wait till the last minute. And with that being said, the last minute is upon us. Since this is the 11th hour on Sunday at Chow Hair Design on Curry Road in their parking lot, I'll be there along with other notaries of the Rotterdam Republican Party, notarizing people. If there's anybody who can't get there for whatever reason, I have an email that is on the town board website. By all means, contact me. I'll come to your house and do it for free as well. I don't want anybody to be stuck in just because it's inconvenient for them to get out there. I'll also hand collect your form and bring it to the town clerk's office myself. So you won't even have to waste the postage stamp. Next, the town of Rotterdam is very fortunate to be considered for a grant this year. I've made an application to the New York Senate for the sum of $8.5 million for something that should have been done long ago. We've put together a plan, Senator Amador and me. I also in consultation with McDonald Engineering and Vince Romano down in Public Works. And we've submitted it to the Senate to establish a sewer line from the base of Burdick Street near the car wash and the mobile, and either following a path directly up Burdick Street or veering off to follow the train line to get it to the intersection near the Stewart's and Del Gallo's barbecue restaurant. The sewer line then, depending on the amount of money that we could generate, would hopefully wide going both to Route 7, but also going out towards Mariahville Lake as far as we could with whatever money were allocated. The thing is, the western side of Rotterdam has been neglected for many, many years. That is where our opportunity lies. We have the ability to establish a new commercial district in the town. However, any projects of any size whatsoever require the infrastructure of sewers. This is a great opportunity for us, and if we can land even half of the $8.5 million grant that I've asked for, it would go a long way to help restoring Rotterdam. And once again, because of our the variation of how differently we tax businesses versus residences, businesses in this town pay between 62 and 65% more taxes than a similarly positioned house assessed in the town of Rotterdam. Developing our business will help us all in the long term. It made the Senate budget, and it is currently pending and being negotiated with the Assembly and the governor of the state of New York. I was hopeful that I would actually be reporting that we ended up securing the grant. However, due to the issues with the Speaker of the Assembly resigning and also the death of our former governor, which happened to be the father of our current governor, the budget process is about 2 weeks behind. I'm very hopeful that I will have something positive to report the next time we come back. Lastly, we were contacted by letter form from individuals from the Mahonison school systems regarding the school resource officer positions at their school. Is there anybody here from Mahonison or Shalmont? All right, seeing none. Hopefully, Madam Clerk, we can send videos to the superintendents of both school districts. This is my open letter in response back to you. The thing is, yes, back in the 90s, there was a grant that paid for the entire cost of the school resource officer program. And it has been a fantastic resource for the various schools. I understand that public safety is an incredibly important aspect and schools need to be protected. However, under the current paradigm that is set up, the school districts only reimburse 70% of the cost. This becomes very troublesome, not only because we're picking up the 30% of the cost, but also because of minimum manpower requirements. When we are required to call in the individuals who have been assigned as school resource officers, and also ones that have been on the Federal Drug Task Force, we are required to pay those individuals not only that 30%, but we pay them at time and a half beyond that. So we aren't getting the value of their time at the lower 100% rate. We have the value of paying the 30% plus the 150% rate for any time that we need them for. It's also been brought to my attention by the Deputy Chief of Police that there's a constant need in this town for individuals with specialized skills, particularly detectives, whereas we don't have two of them actually working Rotterdam cases as they are on assignment elsewhere. I certainly want to continue this program. However, the cost of the program on the town is not fair for just this reason. The towns of DeWaynesburg, Princetown, Colony, the city of Schenectady, places in Albany County and in Montgomery County certainly would not be paying for me to put up a wall between my house in Rotterdam and the Thruway. However, the children that attend our local school districts here in Rotterdam, let's say Mahonison, many of them come from the town of Colony. They don't contribute to our police force cost that we pay for this program. The name of Shelmont itself stands for Schenectady, Albany, and Montgomery County. We have students from all three counties coming to the school district that I live in. That's fantastic. However, are those municipalities paying for the school protection and the police protection that we are paying for? I'm not saying that this is a bad program. However, we are up against tax caps. We have a significant problem with infrastructure. If we have other municipalities utilizing our school district, that is fantastic. But they should also be picking up some of the cost for the program that they also benefit from. I am not saying that I am adverse to continuing this program. Not just with the municipalities not just with the two school districts that are in our municipalities, but to expand the dialogue. Those other municipalities should be contributing to the cost, right? Furthermore, it's not something that, can last forever. We're up against tax caps too. I don't want to cut any programs that are well desired. The exact minutes of that meeting in the back room are available. I audio tape them, the town clerk does as well. Those audio tapes can be retrieved from us should anybody, including the superintendents that I hope are listening to this video. I'm available to talk about it. But I don't just want to hear saber rattling. I want to hear solutions. Help me find a way to continue this program. I have nothing further, Mr. Supervisor.
I'm assuming that you were continuing to miscellaneous at that point. You wouldn't be on committee?
Oh, wait,
Yes, I guess that was miscellaneous.
We'll do a joint committee miscellaneous. Anything else under committee or miscellaneous?
I have two things.
Go ahead.
The one thing I just wanted to continue with that, there was discussion at one point, we mentioned, well, as far as the price tag, to have the police there when we could use those extra patrolmen out onto the streets, you also have to take into account the schools don't pay any of the retirement, none of the pension. We pay 100% of the pension. And the other thing is, the schools may be better off thinking about hiring like retired police officers, because you really don't want someone with a gun necessarily in a school anyways, because they could get distracted, kid grab their gun, You just need someone with police experience in the schools. You could have them hire retired police officers, probably pay half the amount, and then we would be able to get our policemen back on the streets. It costs the schools a lot less money. Everybody wins. That's all I have on that one. Want to use
Go ahead.
yours?
No, continue.
Well, I have, it's something else. I don't know if he has something he wants to say about
I
that.
have something on this.
Yeah, go ahead. That's what I mean.
Mr. Calder?
All right, I don't know how we can put a dollar amount on what they accomplish. The school resource officers, the policemen at the schools. Number one, we know that out-of-school district children, their parents pay school tax. That's a fact. And I realize what you're saying because you're getting at the fact that the home tax here in the town of Rotterdam is not covering what you're saying, which is a very small portion of their tax bills. You know that too. Now, I, for one, was involved originally when we put school resource officers in the schools. This is going back quite a ways now. And I can't tell you the amount of times that they circumvent a problem, and I think the deputy chief could work on this one a little bit more than I'm giving you right now because of current stuff. But because of the fact that there's a uniformed, armed police officers at the school, it saves a lot of issues that you could have. And believe me, if we're looking for schools like, or maybe are elsewhere, or in adjoining communities, like we read the paper this morning about a principal just getting beat up and assaulted severely in school, I don't think none of us that pay taxes in this town want our kids to have to deal with that. It's one thing being able to call the police and say, okay, we'll get there as soon as we can. It's another thing having a police officer right on staff, right there to stop the problem before it starts. He hears things, kids talk to him, teachers talk to him. A lot of these problems are circumvented before they even become a problem. So I really, really think you should be staying away from public safety a little bit in your idea of trying to save some money, Joe. I think everything else, this is equally important also. I'm not saying it's not. But we don't live in a vacuum here. I mean, other areas that touch us are close. There's a lot of crime very close. We're lucky in this community. I personally don't think you should ever touch this program. And I think if the people that do have children going to school, I think, and not only that, but us retirees, which I'm one of them, supposedly, well, it's for this. I think that I would be more than willing to pay my share to make sure our kids are comfortable and safe in the school districts. And that's really what I have to say.
To follow up on that, though, I wasn't saying that we'd abolish the program, but shouldn't we have Colony, the city of Schenectady, the town of Guilderland, the town of Princetown, the town of Duanesburg, municipalities in Montgomery County also contribute to the program that we're paying for? We pay for the program. It benefits their residents. My argument wasn't one, we're going to keep the program, we're going to get rid of the program. My perspective is other municipalities that utilize our Rotterdam school districts, which are not just Rotterdam school districts. And maybe that's where the misconception comes from, right? We are paying for non-Rotterdam students in this program. Not on the 70%, which you are right. They do pay taxes into our school district if their children go there. However, they are not paying the entire cost. If the school district was picking up 100% of the cost, then there would be literally no out-of-district cost to the residents of the town of Rotterdam. Reallocating the expense to those that are utilizing the service is the way to go. I live in one of the school districts. I live out in Shelmont. I think that Shelmont should have an officer there. However, I don't understand why I'm paying 30% of the cost as a Rotterdam resident, yet the people in the town of Duanesburg do not. Deputy Chief, you kind of indicated to me you had something to say, sir?
Well, I just wanted to, I guess, give a basis of knowledge here. When the SRO program was begun, the negotiations between the school districts and the town arrived at the 70% figure because officers are assigned there the 182 days, I believe, is their school's in session. That's roughly 70% of their work year. That's where that number came from. The rest of the time, like, quite frankly, the officers, they had winter break not too long ago. The officers came back and worked. Summers, they're back working here. That's where that number came from. I just want to, as a point of clarification, I want everybody to understand that. That's where the 70% figure came from. Obviously, if anybody can negotiate a higher figure, certainly we're not going to turn down money.
Do the other municipalities provide you any money for the service that we provide to their students at the school districts?
Not directly, other than obviously they pay their school taxes, which comes out of the school's budget to 70%.
Right, but out of the 30% that we provide for, right? We are putting, and just so everybody knows, we don't have entry-level patrolmen there. We have skilled patrolmen, we have a detective in one of the school districts. Those are higher paid positions.
Correct. And, as much as I'm reluctant to discuss this in an open forum, that's probably financially to the town's benefit, because you're getting 70% of a higher figure. Obviously, mathematically, that results in more money for the town.
Right, but we're also getting, right, as opposed to getting 100% of that money, or in the alternative, right, getting 100% of that money is a higher figure than getting 70% of that money. But with that being said, right, we are getting 70% back of a higher figure, yet you are asking to hire people in those positions, for those positions that we need.
Correct. We've deemed those positions as vital, yes.
Right, but we need a detective, we have a detective there. If we recouped 100% of the money, we would have the money available to simply go out and hire another police officer and advance somebody to detective.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not arguing that you shouldn't try to negotiate a better deal. I would certainly support that.
And that would maybe include the other municipalities that were getting the use of our service.
Again, if you can get anybody on the outside to pay any portion of our budget, that would be fantastic. I'm not sure if that's...
The other thing too is the fact that if we have just patrolmen doing that, then we could bring our investigators back, and then we wouldn't need to fill that investigator spot. We're putting in people of higher value and that are more needed, that we say are really needed. If that's the case, then why are they going over to school resource when we should put them in the job that they're in?
Well, again, I've explained this a couple times at the agenda meetings, and I'll try to do it again. And I apologize for not making myself understood. Whenever we put people into positions, and quite frankly, this is a joint appointment type of thing. The school, we put out when there's an SRO position, we put out a letter to all members of the department, anyone interested. Because positions such as these, and quite frankly, any position with the police department, you don't want to assign anyone to a position they're not willing to be at, because they're not going to perform properly. So we put that letter out, we get responses back of X amount of officers that choose to interview for that position. We then vet those officers. If we feel as though one of them or multiple of them are not qualified, we remove them. We didn't feel that way. Those officers all the resumes were then forwarded to the school district and I know they had a panel of people that did the interview. They chose the detective to go there. We supported that because, quite frankly, we felt clearly he was the best qualified candidate. He had spent years as a community service / youth investigator, which means he's highly trained in all the type of disciplines you need to have to effectively deal with children. Obviously, the school came to the same conclusion, they chose him. That's how he's chosen. Now,
Right, go ahead.
Again, now we're going to more budgetary line. You have to understand this, a detective makes roughly $10,000, I don't have the contract in front of me, $10,000 more than a top grade patrolman. Okay? Simple. You're getting 70% of that back. So what it's costing you to send the most qualified person there, costing us, the police department, is roughly $3,000 more than sending that patrolman. Forcing a patrolman to go there, or forcing an officer there that the school has not chosen. Now, do I have the right to do that? Force an officer that doesn't want to be there? I can assign an officer anywhere I want. It's just like forcing an officer to be a sergeant or be a detective. If they don't want to be there, they're not going to do a good job. So those decisions we make go well beyond the monetary. We certainly take into account the monetary decision, but we're talking about roughly $3,000 a year extra.
Well,
That costs the town of Rotterdam.
what I'm talking though is we shouldn't make it up to the officers as far as, we should make it that only patrolmen are eligible to take that position.
Well, that runs counter to good management and discipline within a police department.
We're paying 100% for
I understand.
their retirement.
You're looking at this strictly and solely from a monetary perspective. I understand.
No, I'm looking at it in the fact that if they're investigator or they're whatever higher ranking, if they're not in their position doing a job, then you're gonna want other people to be hired to do their job, where if you have a patrolman that's at a lower level in there, then we don't need to hire higher ranking people and keep building that budget up and up and up.
Again, that runs counter to all good order and discipline and all supervisory classes, education, and training I've ever received. You don't put people in positions that they don't want to be because they're not going to function properly.
We also have to find a middle ground between what's
I understand that.
good and what is affordable.
I'm not trying to usurp your authority and power as a board member. I'm just trying to make sure you understand the thought process, the vetting process, the interview process. All these things were taken into consideration. This is the way we've done it. We feel as though it's the appropriate way to do it. We feel as though it's the appropriate way to provide the best level of service to the community / the school district.
Well, I don't mean to interrupt here. I think we've kind of discussed this at length tonight. I think it begs the question that we should have further discussion about this, particularly when we appear to have 50% of the board that's not in favor of the way we're doing it. It should open it up for more discussions, and I acknowledge that, but maybe a public town board meeting is not for that use of time.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Any other discussion?
I have one more thing for miscellaneous. For resolution numbers 71.15, 72.15, and 73.15, I'd like to ask that when these resolutions come up for an actual vote to decide on vendors, that besides whatever else we get in our packet, we also receive county and state bid pricing. So we want to know what we can get from county or state pricing also, not just what the individual vendors can give us.
I think that that's a great idea, Mr. Supervisor. We should know what our competing outlets can offer us.
Anything else under miscellaneous?
Just have one thing, and I know we've already beat it to death, but I just can't sit here and not say something about this. We're talking strictly money now, Mr. Villano, and I understand where you're going with that, and we talked about that earlier. But, you know, we send a good portion of our Mohonasen students and our Shellmont students to the BOCES program in Colony. I don't know if you're aware of that or not. We also send special
we pay
needs
for that.
children. We get paid for that, but do they pay us, do we have to pay them for their SROs? You don't know that.
Some don't even
we
have
do,
this
we do. Through the school taxes, we have to pay tuition into those
And
programs.
everybody else is doing the same. You know what I'm trying to say? This could very well be just a wash. We're talking 170-some days a year, working days, at school. The rest of the time, they're at the PD doing their jobs that they were hired for. We send our kids to BOCES and Colony, for instance. Now, Colony's at a very heavy, well, not heavy, but a portion of Mohonasen District runs into the town of Colony. So we take those kids in, and then we send them to the town of Colony for the BOCES program. And their SROs and people in the Colony Police Department and everybody else over there that protect these kids while they're there, we're doing the same with their kids. I mean, I think when you get right down to it, I don't know if you're talking any money at all. That's just my opinion. It could be wrong.
Then how does that apply to the city of Schenectady? Are we sending kids to their BOCES program?
Well, you know-
What
you
about
know-
Montgomery County?
You know,
What about?
I really don't want to cut this, but I think we really kind of
We
beat
have,
this, we
and
kind of
I'm
beat
not
this
gonna
up
go there.
tonight.
I just wanted to make that-
And I have the urge to jump in, given my past professional background and the fact that I'm a criminal justice professor, but I'll avoid making comment on that. Is there anything else under miscellaneous
Mr. Bafardi, may I speak? If the rest of them are-
regarding this issue?
No.
No,
for-
just,
Okay.
because I wanted to add something to miscellaneous, then I'll open to you. A couple of things under miscellaneous, and I'll avoid speaking about the school resource officer issue. Going back to the yard waste opt-outs, thank you, Mr. Villano, for volunteering for providing notary service. But I'd also like to indicate that Ms. Marco, through her office, and that's probably what you were going to
Yes,
talk
it
about,
was.
also provides that service free to anyone at the town. And if you're in here to opt out, have it signed off on free, you can just submit it here and also save the money on it too. And she might want to speak about this again after I'm done. The other thing is regarding the grant, the Senate grant that Mr. Amador is proposing. I've had discussion and dialogue with him about this. I support this type of funding. I think opening up the sewer district, or opening up a sewer district that goes up the Burdick Street corridor is a great first start. I think that we should look beyond that and think about opening it up to Route 7 and out past Shellmont High School to hook into that corridor that adjoins I-88 and 25A. I support that. I support that in a cross-reference that I'm not making it a partisan political issue. I would support my Democratic colleagues to jump on board with Mr. Amador and support that also. I think it's a great idea, and thank you for pursuing that for us. I think that's the key to future Rotterdam development. Does anyone else have anything else under miscellaneous?
Just one thing, we have been working on that, and I do appreciate what you're doing too. We've been working on that since, well, for the last 3 years prior to you guys coming on the board. Then some things fell through, you know, with the contractor and such. There was Metroplex. There was a lot more involved, but it's not a brand new idea. It's a great idea, And I do agree with the supervisor. It's good you've got the rapport with Mr. Amador to get up with that.
Anything else under miscellaneous? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
Can I-
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry,
It's okay.
I promised.
No,
I'm
I
sorry.
just wanted to say to the residents that it's not just opt-out forms. We notarize every single day from 8:30 to 4:30 for residents, and not just opt-out forms, and it's free of charge. And also that I have gone to several people's houses, and some of the handicapped people that will come in, they'll tell me I'll meet them downstairs. So I do accommodate all of them, and all three of myself and my two employees are all notaries. So between 8:30 and 4:30, and it is no charge, but we notarize every single day. Thank you.
Anything else under miscellaneous? I'll re-entertain the motion to adjourn.
I'll remove.
Removed by Mr. Valano. Do I have a re-second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Moore. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.